A continent on edge Europe in 1938? Europe in 1938 was a continent teetering on the brink of war. The Treaty of Versailles, signed after World War I, had left Germany humiliated and resentful. The Great Depression had caused economic hardship and political instability across the continent. Nationalist and fascist movements were on the rise, challenging the existing order. Fear and uncertainty gripped nations as they watched the growing power of Adolf Hitler's Nazi Germany. The world held its breath, wondering if diplomacy could avert another devastating conflict. The shadow of Hitler, Nazi Germany's rise. Adolf Hitler and his Nazi party rose to power in Germany by exploiting the country's economic woes and nationalistic sentiments. Hitler's ideology was based on racial purity and German expansionism. He openly defied the Treaty of Versailles, rebuilding Germany's military and pursuing territorial claims. In 1936, Hitler remilitarized the Rhineland, a region bordering France. In 1938, he annexed Austria in a bloodless takeover known as the Anschluss. These aggressive actions alarmed the other European powers, who feared that Hitler's ambitions would lead to war. Key players: Germany, Britain, France and Italy. These four nations were at the heart of the political and military maneuvers that shaped Europe in the late 1930s. Four major powers dominated the European stage in 1938: Germany, Great Britain, France and Italy. Each of these countries had its own agenda and ambitions, which often clashed with one another. Germany, under Hitler's leadership, was the driving force behind the escalating tensions. Hitler's aggressive, expansionist policies and militarization were clear signals of his intentions to dominate Europe. Great Britain, led by Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain, was eager to avoid another war. The memories of World War I were still fresh, and Chamberlain believed that appeasement might prevent another catastrophic conflict. France, still recovering from World War I, was also reluctant to confront Germany directly. The French government, under Édouard Daladier, was wary of the immense cost and devastation another war could bring. Italy, ruled by the fascist dictator Benito Mussolini, was initially allied with Britain and France, but increasingly drawn to Hitler's camp. Mussolini saw an opportunity to expand Italy's influence and power by aligning with Germany. These nations would determine the fate of Europe in the crucial months leading up to the Munich Conference. The decisions made by these leaders at the conference would have far-reaching consequences, setting the stage for the events that would soon unfold across the continent. Czechoslovakia, a nation divided. Czechoslovakia, a young democracy created after World War I, became the focal point of Hitler's aggression in 1938. The country had a significant German-speaking population in the Sudetenland region, which bordered Germany. Hitler demanded that the Sudetenland be ceded to Germany, claiming that the German population was being oppressed. Czechoslovakia, however, was determined to defend its territorial integrity. The country had a well-equipped army and a system of fortifications along the German border. Czechoslovakia also had alliances with France and the Soviet Union, which Hitler perceived as a threat to his plans. Section 5. A gathering stormed the Munich Conference. With war seemingly imminent, the leaders of Germany, Great Britain, France and Italy convened in Munich, Germany on September 29, 1938. The world was on edge as the threat of another devastating conflict loomed large over Europe. The stakes were incredibly high, and the decisions made at this conference would have far-reaching consequences. The Munich Conference, as it became known, was a desperate attempt to avert another European war. The leaders were under immense pressure to find a solution that would prevent the outbreak of hostilities. The memories of the Great War were still fresh, and no one wanted to see a repeat of that catastrophic conflict. Chamberlain, Daladier, Hitler and Mussolini met to decide the fate of Czechoslovakia and, ultimately, the future of peace in Europe. The Sudetenland, a region of Czechoslovakia with a significant ethnic German population, was at the center of the discussions. Hitler demanded its annexation, claiming it was necessary for the protection of ethnic Germans. The atmosphere at the conference was tense, with the weight of millions of lives hanging in the balance. The leaders knew that their decisions could either lead to peace or plunge the world into another devastating war. The pressure was palpable, and every word spoken carried immense significance. Chamberlain, in particular, was determined to find a peaceful solution, believing that another war would be disastrous for all involved. He famously declared that he had achieved peace for our time, after the agreement was signed, though history would later judge this statement harshly. His efforts were driven by a deep desire to avoid the horrors of another global conflict. The world watched and waited anxiously for the outcome of the talks. People across Europe and beyond were glued to their radios and newspapers, hoping for a resolution that would spare them from the ravages of war. The Munich Conference was a pivotal moment in history, one that would shape the course of events in the years to come. Section 6. Appeasement, a flawed strategy. The Munich Conference became synonymous with the policy of appeasement. Appeasement, in this context, meant giving in to Hitler's demands to avoid war. Chamberlain and the other Western leaders believed that by making concessions to Hitler, they could satisfy his territorial ambitions and preserve peace. They argued that Germany had legitimate grievances stemming from the Treaty of Versailles and that Hitler could be reasoned with. However, the policy of appeasement proved to be a grave miscalculation. Hitler viewed it as a sign of weakness and was emboldened to pursue his expansionist goals further. Section 7. Betrayal in Munich, Czechoslovakia Abandoned. At the Munich Conference, Chamberlain and Daladier agreed to Hitler's demands for the Sudetenland. Czechoslovakia, despite having a strong military and defensive position, was not even invited to the conference. The agreement was a betrayal of Czechoslovakia and its people, who were forced to cede their territory without a fight. The agreement also shattered the principle of collective security that was supposed to underpin the League of Nations. The League, already weakened by its failure to prevent earlier acts of aggression, was further discredited by its inaction during the Sudetenland crisis. Section 8. A short-lived peace, the illusion of security. The Munich Agreement was initially hailed as a triumph of diplomacy. Chamberlain returned to Britain, famously waving a piece of paper signed by Hitler, declaring that he had secured peace for our time. However, the peace proved to be short-lived. Hitler, emboldened by his success at Munich, was determined to conquer all of Czechoslovakia. In March 1939, German troops marched into Prague, the Czech capital, effectively ending Czechoslovakia's independence. The Munich Agreement had failed to prevent war. It had merely postponed it and, in the process, made Hitler even stronger. Section 9. The Legacy of Munich, a turning point in history. The Munich Conference was a pivotal moment in 20th century history. It marked the culmination of the policy of appeasement and the failure of collective security. The agreement shattered any remaining illusions about Hitler's true intentions and exposed the weakness of the Western powers. Moreover, it emboldened Hitler, who now believed that he could continue to expand his territory without serious opposition. The Munich Agreement set the stage for World War II, which would erupt just 11 months later. As Section 10, Echoes of the Past. Lessons from Munich. The Munich Conference continues to resonate in the 21st century as a cautionary tale about the dangers of appeasement and the importance of standing up to aggression. This pivotal moment in history, where world leaders attempted to negotiate peace with Adolf Hitler, serves as a powerful lesson in the complexities of international diplomacy. The lessons of Munich teach us that dictators cannot be appeased, that their ambitions often extend far beyond what they initially claim. The handshake between Neville Chamberlain and Adolf Hitler, once seen as a symbol of hope, quickly turned into a grim reminder of the perils of trusting tyrants. Concessions only embolden them, giving them the confidence to pursue even more aggressive actions. The annexation of the Sudetenland was not the end, but merely the beginning of a series of aggressive moves that would plunge the world into war. Collective security is essential to deterring aggression. The failure of the Munich Agreement highlighted the necessity for nations to stand together against common threats. Propaganda posters from World War II emphasized the importance of unity and collective action, a lesson that remains relevant today. The Munich Agreement serves as a stark reminder that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of justice and the willingness to defend it. Chamberlain's declaration of peace for our time was tragically short-lived, underscoring the need for vigilance and preparedness in the face of potential threats. As we navigate the complex challenges of the 21st century, the lessons from Munich are more pertinent than ever. Global political summits and diplomatic meetings today are shaped by the understanding that appeasement can lead to greater conflicts. The echoes of Munich remind us that the price of inaction can be far greater than the cost of standing firm against tyranny. From the battlefields of World War II to modern-day protests against oppressive regimes, the importance of taking a stand for justice and freedom remains a timeless truth.